Today is June 25th, and this is our weekly development meeting for Backdrop CMS. Before we get into the agenda, let's not forget introductions this meeting. So Nate, you're in my top left. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Nate Lampton. I'm core committer. And yeah, getting together today just to do the normal weekly check-in. So happy to be here.
Matthias, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Matthias from Switzerland. My goal is to get an update on what's going on in core development. It's more a listener role for me today.
Great. Olaf, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, same for me. I'm Olaf from Hamburg in Germany, and also want to hear what's happening. And that's all for the moment.
Great. I'm Jen Lampton from Oakland, California. I'm also here to get an update on what's going on in core development. There we go. Before we get into what's going on with Backdrop Core itself, I want to do a quick update on contributed projects. Since our last Backdrop weekly meeting, we've had 3 new contributed project releases, which is really exciting. We have a new version of block remove module, web form calculator, and conditional fields. So it's exciting to see those come out.
Cool.
Let's turn it over to Nate to talk about Backdrop 116.3.
Yeah, 116.3 is our current release of Backdrop, or sorry, 116.2 is our current release of Backdrop, and 116.3 will be the next bug fix release. In the past week, we've had a couple of additional fixes merged in. We had this issue relating to when you switched layouts, you could not remove blocks in the process of changing the layout template. That issue was 4420 that was merged in the past week. Also, a rather major improvement is this next issue, making views strings translatable, issue 4382. When we ported views into Backdrop ages ago, translation had been removed, assuming that we would end up using configuration translation once that was created. Issue 4382 restores the ability to translate views using a direct crossport from what is in Drupal 7. So it turns out we did not use config translation. It's just using locale module, same as exactly the same as Drupal 7. Our thinking there is that while config translation, we do have that capability now. That config translation is made for a simple use case, and views is complex. In addition to that, and more importantly, views already had a mechanism for translating, and it all routes through locale module anyway. So in the end, the translation mechanism was going to be the same. It was just the pathway that we used to get there. So 4382, in the name of compatibility and straightforwardness, just takes exactly what we had in Drupal 7 and reapplies it to Backdrop. So that'll be great. That's been merged into the 116 branch, so it'll be in the next bug fix release. We'll finally have that capability back in Backdrop again. Let's see. Next up, we have an issue that is of fair importance that is a regression in the 116 branch itself, that when you're looking at the list of text formats, the order of text formats on the administration page for configuring them is not respecting the format order. And so right now they're displaying alphabetically when they should be ordered by weight. It can be very confusing because you're allowed to reorder them on that page, but when you save, it doesn't appear that the changes are saved, even though they are. So that issue 4407 is a visual regression that's causing confusion for people configuring text formats. There's currently no pull request and no code that has been submitted for it yet. So that is a good issue that we would like to get fixed in the near future that doesn't have any assigned developer yet. So 4407 is something that we could use some help on. Let's see, next up. Indigo Zella, I think, has been working on restoring some functionality from date module. Yeah, that date module in 777 had the ability to have a pager that is provided to views that lets you go forward and backward based on dates. This is important for calendaring previous month, next month type pagers. And so 2766 is porting that functionality into Backdrop Core's date module. It currently has a pull request that needs review. It doesn't look like there's been any update in the past week, but still looking for some eyeballs on that one. Let's see, next up, we've got this issue that is interesting and changing quickly. Jeff Serendipity asked that we refocus again on improving some of the automation tools that we use. And I think that this issue to automatically lint our code, that is like checking against coding standards, would improve the feedback cycle for people submitting pull requests. The issue is number 3213. And the suggestion is that we use PHP-CS, which is a code linting tool to run automated checks when pull requests are filed and immediately provide feedback saying, hey, this line that you changed, use tabs instead of spaces, for example. So the world of linting on GitHub is changing rapidly, though. First of all, GitHub Actions is now around that makes it so that we can run container-based automation against pull requests using GitHub for free, which is a great built-in offering that GitHub started providing. And in the past week, GitHub created a new official tool for syntax checking that they called the super linter. And so the super linter is an officially supported GitHub action that can lint a half dozen languages right now, I think, or maybe 8 languages. Unfortunately, PHP is not one of them. But there is a very active issue to add PHP support to that new project. And that could make our configuration and use of linting be something that is common and I think in the near future, likely to be ubiquitous across GitHub projects. So issue 3213 is changing quickly. I'm pretty sure that we want to use GitHub Actions to achieve this. It seems like the super linter in the near future could also be the way that we go. But regardless of which linter we use and what continuous integration tool we use to lint it, we still have to write the PHP-CS configuration files that configure the rules that it will use when it does the linting. And when Jen was looking at this a couple of weeks ago, well, Jen, do you want to describe the caveats that you were running into regarding like the versions of libraries and how the rules need to be updated?
So Backdrop's PHP-CS code is for PHP-CS version 1. Drupal 7 supports PHP-CS version 2. Drupal 8 supports PHP-CS version 3. And so if we want to go all the way back to version 1, it takes like some jumping through hoops in order to get that version installed. And then that PHP-CS version 1 doesn't work with PHP 7. So our tests that would test PHP 7 can't also test the coding standards. So essentially we have a lot of work to do to update our PHP-CS rules to work with PHP-CS version 3 so that we can test modern versions of PHP with our coding standards. And I think that there has been a lot of activity with PHP-CS lately. So PHP-CS version 2 does have support for PHP 7 now. I think it was added by the Drupal community because they wanted it for Drupal 7. But most of stuff is happening in PHP-CS version 3, and there's kind of a significant difference between version 3 and version 2. But there are some pretty good sets of documentation on how to update rules from version 2 to version 3. So I think for us, we could probably get everything we need out of version 2, and that would be fairly easy. And then longer term, we should also move to version 3, just because that's newer.
Yeah, it seems like getting fully up to date, especially if we use the pre-built linter that GitHub is providing, might be a requirement. And yeah, we need to get up to date. Okay, let's see. That's it for the 116.3 issues that we'd like to highlight. There are 65 issues currently tagged in the 116.3 milestone though, so we definitely have a lot of things to address. I'd say about half of these look like they're in needs review state, and the other half have pull requests that need work. So there's a lot of things to potentially address just to clean up our bug fixes and pay down some of our technical debt. It seems to be where a lot of our attention is focused right now. 117 is the next minor release of Backdrop. It'll be coming out September 15th with feature freeze on September 1st. There are 2 initiatives that are currently underway. Telemetry that Jeff, their deputy, is working on doing that will make it so that Backdrop will report usage information about how Backdrop sites are configured to backdropcms.org to help us inform decisions about product direction. And Luke McCormick, Seller, his issue on making it so that themes are not, let's see, what's the right phrasing for this? That you shouldn't need to do theme development in order to run a Backdrop website. Pre-built themes that are more flexible that can deliver production websites is the initiative that he's taking on, also referred to as the Ready to Wear initiative. Neither of them are around today to give us updates though. Jen, I'm not sure if you have anything that you've heard about these.
Well, Luke was just in the outreach meeting. It sounds like he's trying to figure out the tools that are available to him for leading the initiative, and so things are going a little bit slow right now. He said he was going to touch base with Jeff, who's leading the other initiative, to try and figure out if there are things in common that they should be doing. But yeah, it looks like he's still soliciting involvement, but things aren't moving incredibly fast yet.
Okay. In that case, the one issue that we have in the 117 milestone, Jen, your issue for using the administration theme for the login form was officially moved into the 117 milestone. Do you have any updates on that?
Yeah, so I'm working on that right now. It is almost done. The one thing I'm doing is I had manually added the password reset link onto the form, and rather than doing that, what I'm going to do is pull the local tasks and loop over them, and anything that had a tab that's no longer displayed as a tab will end up displayed in a bulleted list below the form. So hopefully that way, if there are any contrib modules that add any tabs, that module is going to remove the tabs, but the links are still going to be available on that page.
Yep.
Or sorry, that theme setting will remove the tab. It won't lose the fun feature.
Let's see, separately from that, we also merged in something from 117 that is a design change to the 7 theme. That the 7 theme, since we redesigned it, has been using all uppercase letters. It's been text transforming field set titles or field set labels into uppercase. It's worth noting that in the past week, we changed that so that they are no longer forced into uppercase letters. It's issue 4125. And the reason for the justification for that, it comes down to localization and translation, as well as flexibility that text transforming to uppercase doesn't work in all languages. And it also can make localization difficult with characters that need variations like umlauts and accents, uppercase variants, it doesn't display well. Plus, there's also space considerations that it was making capital letters take up a lot more space than lowercase
It's also
ones.
better for accessibility. All uppercase letters is harder for people to read. And so if you have problems reading, whether it's a vision problem or a contrast problem, or you're dyslexic like me, having not all uppercase makes it much easier to digest the information.
Yep. So that change is already in the 1.x branch. Any sandboxes that you spin up for all feature pull requests will already have that change, that design change on the back end. You might not notice it specifically, but it's one of those things that you're like, something seems a little bit different than it had been. And that's probably what it is, because that affects almost every page of the administrative interfaces. Okay, well, that's the heads up then I have there. 117 still wide open as far as features that could possibly be implemented. In order to move something into the 117 milestone, we require that the issue have an advocate to promote it. And so if you're interested in putting something in the next minor version of Backdrop, find an issue that you're interested in that is a feature request, edit its description and add yourself as an advocate just by typing advocate and then your handle name into the issue summary, and then give it a milestone candidate minor tag. And then once seconded, we can move it into the 117 milestone. Okay, that's all I have. Olaf, it looks like you have something to add.
Yeah, regarding the next minor release, we have the initiatives, and maybe we could pick a part of the theme initiative and plan to provide a first theme and core. So the plan of the initiative is to, I think, to provide 4 or 5 themes. But yeah, we could just choose a first one and put it in core. So it would be a nice thing for a minor release, I think. A new core theme.
Is there a list of the candidates, or are we just thinking the ones that are currently in Contrib?
I don't think there are any plans to move any themes into core. I think the plan was to make the ones in Contrib better and then promote them the same way we're going to promote modules in core, so that they would have a designated area at the top of the themes install page that had some kind of highlighting that was like, these were recommended. And that way it would be clear to people which ones are actually going to work on your site versus which ones are like, oh, I just made this theme and threw it in Contrib because I want someone else to be able to use the code. And so we have a bunch of work to do on the promoting things angle as well. And that might be something we want to put in the next release, is to make sure that Backdrop Core can handle the promotion, putting at the top of the list in the whatever kind of color coding or otherwise indicating that section. But we also have a bunch of work to do on those themes. And so it might be good to work on getting that list of whatever those themes are that we're going to use, and then getting lists of the things we need to do to make them featured. So I think the last time we had a check-in on the initiative, oh good, Luke's here. We created an item that was like, we need to figure out what the criteria are for getting a theme to be promoted. And somebody, I don't know, remember if it was Luke or not, pointed us at WordPress had it. Was it you, Matthias? Someone pointed us at a page that WordPress has that's like, these are the requirements your theme needs to meet in order to be distributed via the themes page. And there are a bunch of stuff about like do's and don'ts in code standards, and then a set of features that needed to be supported. And I thought we could come up with something really similar. And if we have that really clear list, we could even make like PHP-CS rules for it, right? Where you could be like, oh, you have to make sure you don't call this function from this file, or that you do support this feature. And so I think the first step would be, what is that list of things we need? And then the second step would be, what themes already meet these requirements? And then after that, we would have a list of things that didn't make the requirements and needed it. But I do like the idea of getting the core stuff done in 117 since we don't have a lot of other things on the to-do list there. I don't remember what remains in that issue. I think Gregor and I were working on the promoted status for modules. It might be good to revisit that issue with a fresh set of eyes, thinking about how it would work with themes and make sure we have all of those requirements outlined there too.
Jen, I think it wasn't yet decided if the themes are thought, if the idea is to put the themes in Contrib or in Core. Maybe look, as you're here now, what do you think about it, or was it discussed already?
I'm ready to chime in, but I need a little context. What's the question we're asking?
Okay. I suggested, because we talked about the next minor release of Backdrop, and I suggested the idea to put one of the first of the new themes, which we hopefully build, in Core for the next minor release. And then Jen talked about the idea of, or about criteria, which themes should meet, and to be featured by Backdrop. So, but for her, the idea was not, of the initiative was not to build themes for Core, but for Contrib, if I get it right.
All right. I don't think we have it really defined yet how the results will be delivered. That's one of the things we're actively working on trying to figure out how that is. I'd be surprised if it makes sense when all the chips fall, if we want to include a single theme anytime soon. That sounds a little premature. I think we're a few clicks away, and I don't know if that means like weeks or what, but like I don't think we're that far off from an MVP where we'll release more than that. And I'm not exactly sure what release means, but I think it's got to be more than one. I think it's got to be 3 or 4 of whatever it is, and we're still working on that now. Now it might not be premature to pick 1 or 2 that look like they're going to cross the line. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm not exactly sure how to determine if we've gotten to that point, but I think that's next up.
Got it.
So right now the focus is on building the themes more than determining how to distribute them. Does that sound
Or
right?
I mean, we might already
Also choosing.
Yeah, so it would just be choosing of the ones we have, which would work.
Of the ones we have, I'm not sure, because in Zulip we discussed a lot about theme directories, template directories, and we have a list in the forum thread, I think, about the first suggestions about external templates or themes which we could rebuild, which are GPL. And I think we need also more feedback there, because now it's still unclear, which teams we want to choose. But I think it's also quite clear that the existing Backdrop themes are not so ready, not only technically, but also design-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Those are the questions. I don't think we're at the point where we have any answers to the questions. We're kind of halfway through the process of determining what the questions are. But that'll come soon. I mean, we're not far from starting to have answers. I think that's coming up imminently, but we're not there yet.
I was just going to say that it's probably going to be much easier to fix the technical issues than the design issues. So it might be smart to consider both things that are really complete from a design perspective and don't exist for Backdrop, than things that exist and are technically complete but not compelling experiences.
Yeah, totally agree.
Okay.
I hadn't thought of that yet, so I just wanted to say, nice job thinking of that, whoever thought of that.
Okay. That brings us to the end of the agenda for today. Do you guys have anything else you would like to discuss? Okay. Looks like we'll have a nice short meeting today. Thank you guys
Oh,
all.
wait.
for-
Hold
Oh,
on. I'm gonna hijack a little bit. I probably missed my agenda thing, which would have been kind of giving feedback on the Ready to Wear initiative. But really, the pressing issue that I have is I feel a need for something scheduled where I can somehow on a schedule know everybody who's involved that wants to be involved that has a saying. So I was thinking about scheduling a meeting, I think. I'm not quite sure how to do that. How to, like, one possibility would be, I've got a weird schedule, unfortunately, so I'll have to throw up, you know what, I can actually wrap this up and just say that I'm going to put something on the forums where I'll spew the stuff I'm talking about, where I want to try to establish probably like a weekly meeting just for now to whoever wants to get deeply involved with the Ready to Wear thing. It doesn't have to be synchronous. It doesn't have to be like a Zoom meeting or a video thing. It could just be a time that we're going to meet on one of the platforms. But I feel like I need to schedule something. And sorry for that ramble, but this is what's troubling me right now, and I'm trying to like work out a solution.
Yeah, I think, Luke, if you can throw up a time, put it in the Zulip channel too, so people who are already involved can see when it is. And hopefully you can get a feel for who can meet then. And if it doesn't work, like you can't find a time that works for everybody, but that one of these weekly meeting times would work for everybody, we could devote, half or a quarter or a third or whatever of one of these meetings to that if you needed. So yeah, throw out some ideas, but we're flexible on that.
All right. I think I just need to. I want to impose a schedule, mostly on myself. I want to impose some sort of like deadline as to when decisions are asked, when they're reached, and I think the mechanism for how that communication happens is less important than the timing of that information. And so I just want to let you know I'm going to try to thread my way towards an answer to that. Okay.
okay. Sounds great. Thanks, Luke. Okay, well, let's wrap it up for today. Thank you guys all for joining the meeting as always, and we'll see you guys again next week and out there on the internet. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.